If you've been following along with the Tyrese Gibson lawsuit against Home Depot, then this is video 2. In this piece, I'm going to be looking at the actual facts behind the lawsuit. In the first video, I went over the California law that they're basing this discrimination lawsuit on. But I want to go back for a minute to this Instagram account because there was something over here on the side that I wanted to take a look at. And it's this statement that his team released. And I suppose when he says his team, I guess he means his attorneys, the firm that's representing him. It says Tyrese Gibson's team releases a statement regarding the racial profiling and blatant discrimination and discriminatory in their joint class. And I think that's supposed to be action lawsuit. They are seeking $450 million. This was August 10th, 2023. It says Craftsman, and you can see there's some errors with the T's in here. It's coming up as question marks, but I'm going to go ahead and read it as I think it's supposed to be written without, I guess, I don't know, is it Instagram or TikTok or whatever technology has sort of messed up their post. Craftsman Eric Moore and Manuel Hernandez are an integral part of my team and have made significant contributions to my visions for over a decade. Together, we ardently uphold our commitments to civil rights, promoting empathy and understanding. Standing united against Craftsman Eric Moore and Manuel Hernandez are an integral part of my team. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I guess that got put in there twice. See, this is me reading it and not even sure there's something going on there. It says the Home Depot. Okay, so Craftsman, standing united against Craftsman Eric Moore and Manuel Hernandez are an integral part of my team and have made significant contributions to the Home Depot. We envision a world free from discriminatory practices and consumer racial profiling. Just as I have done for the past 20 plus years, I pledge to continue to utilize my platform to empower the voiceless, fostering a spirit of unity and hope while illuminating our shared path forward. And then you see some of the comments here, and I just wanted to go through some of those. Dude in the middle was like, well, sure, I'll answer the question. Yeah, I think he, was not a part of this. And if you saw my last video, I played this so that you could actually see it. And the guy in the middle was kind of trying to understand what was happening. And then you have a person here who's sort of breaking down the whole thing. If you haven't had a chance to really understand what happened, it says this is just a short clip of what happened. He was with his construction team, decided to go to his car because he noticed he was getting attention. After he left, he's saying the employee refused to service his team because they stated they needed to see his ID. He FaceTimed the employee and they still refused to go ahead through with the transaction, citing the store policy. So then he came back in and and this is where we are with some things. So you see some of the comments here. Yeah. So this just gives you an idea of what was going on there. All right, so let me get back to the lawsuit because that's really where we want to go here. We want to get back to this lawsuit, go over the facts, common to all causes of action. That's where we are in this case. If you've been following along, this is video 2. We went over the actual law in video 1. In video 2, we're going to be looking at facts common to all causes of action. It says, we're on paragraph 16 now. Gibson, Moore, and Hernandez were subjected to outrageous discriminatory mistreatment and consumer racial profiling at the Home Depot retail store located at, this is store number 1070. On the evening of February 11, 2023, Gibson, Hernandez, and Moore approached the cashier's register together to complete the purchase. Sorry. Oops. This is just me just sort of checking some stuff real quick. Sorry. To complete the purchase of materials for an ongoing project at Gibson's residence. Gibson is a longtime customer of the Home Depot, and over time he has purchased no less than $1 million worth of materials from the company. Let me just say this for a second. I go to Home Depot all the time. There was one time I went so often, the lady was trying to, when you walk in and they're like, hey, would you like to open a Home Depot credit account? And I was like, no. And she literally was like, but you come in here almost every day. I was like, yeah, that's why I don't need an account here. But yeah, I could see spending a lot of money at Home Depot. And they're saying that he has spent no less than $1 million worth of materials from the company. Mora, I have not done that. Mora and Hernandez regularly provide construction services to Gibson in connection with his projects. In this capacity, they have patronized the Home Depot, particularly the West Hills store, on many occasions over the years. The cashier was very slow scanning items, and the process took 20 minutes. Then the cashier insisted that all items be rescanned because of a purported glitch in the system. While the cashier reran the scanning of the merchandise, a process that extended another 20 minutes, Gibson was approached by shoppers who recognized him from his roles in motion pictures. Not wanting to create a disturbance in the store with his fans, Gibson decided it would be better to wait in his vehicle, which was parked outside. Gibson communicated to the cashier that he would proceed to the parking lot and that Mora and Hernandez would be completing the purchase transaction with his credit card. The cashier acknowledged Gibson and said he understood. Gibson asked the cashier if the cashier needed anything further from him to complete the transaction. The cashier said no and that Gibson could leave. However, when Mora and Hernandez presented Gibson's credit card to pay for the materials, the cashier refused to complete the purchase transaction. Mora and Hernandez called Gibson using FaceTime video and passed the phone to the cashier. Gibson, appearing on video, again authorized the purchase transaction. Despite this, the cashier continued to refuse to complete the transaction. Gibson returned to the inside of the store, again authorized payment, and asked why the cashier refused the transaction. He also asked to speak with the store manager. The cashier gave no reasonable explanation other than repeating store policy and demanded to see a form of identification. The manager refused to speak with Gibson in person. It was only after a significant heated discussion with the cashier that Gibson was finally able to complete the transaction. The actions of the cashier and manager were discriminatory based on race and origin. There is no other plausible explanation for the mistreatment of plaintiffs. The transaction was refused despite Gibson's repeated authorizations because of plaintiff's skin color, and in the case of Mora and Hernandez, also because of their national origin. This is a clear and deplorable instance of discriminatory mistreatment and consumer racial profiling. The treatment of Gibson, Mora, and Hernandez by the Home Depot was humiliating and demeaning. So let's talk about this first cause of action. So this is the piece that's based on the California Civil Rights Act, and this piece that says, okay, so let's go down here to what they have to prove to establish a cause of action under the act. The following elements are required. They have to be in a protected class, has to be a business establishment, there has to be a discriminatory business practice, and discriminatory intent, which sometimes is the hardest piece to prove, the intent. All right, let's go down to paragraph 23. Gibson is Black and Mora and Hernandez are both Hispanic men of Mexican national origin. Gibson, Mora, and Hernandez are each within classes protected by the Act. Defendant, the Home Depot, is a corporation and a national retailer of home improvement products and services. Defendant, Home Depot, is a business establishment for the purposes of the Act. Okay, so let's go back. So 23, remember, number one says you have to be protected class. And there you have Gibson, Mora, and Hernandez are all within protected classes. Then you have to have two, which is a business establishment. And then you have paragraph 24 that shows that Home Depot is a business establishment. So now we're down to number three, the discriminatory business practice that they have to prove. And number four, the discriminatory intent. So let's see what they say next. It says on February 11, 2023, defendants subjected plaintiffs and each of them to a discriminatory business practice with discriminatory intent when refusing to or otherwise preventing plaintiffs from completing their purchase transaction at defendant Home Depot's West Hills retail store as described above. And so this is interesting the way this is phrased here, and maybe it gets different a little further down. But in the end, they did complete the transaction. So I don't know if I would have stated something more of they were delayed in treating their transaction or something else. I don't know that I would say prevented them from completing, because in the end, they did actually complete it. So paragraph 26 says, defendant's conduct denied, incited a denial of, discriminated, and or made a distinction on the basis of plaintiff's race, color, and or national origin that denied plaintiffs full and equal accommodations, advantages, facilities, privileges, and or services in violation of the act. And then you have the defendants acted intentionally. And so this piece here is simply a statement. How do you show intent? Because really what comes down to is you lay down the facts of what happened and you use that to show intent. Very rarely do people now state, well, I'm intentionally treating you this way because you're black because you're of Mexican descent. Most people don't say that, but some people do. A substantial motivating reason for defendant's conduct was defendant's perception of plaintiff's race, color, and or national origin. And this is how they may say, this is how they may proceed with this. They may say there was this policy, and the policy stated once you have my account information, I don't have to show ID. And yet you made us show ID. And even when I got on FaceTime, you said that wasn't enough. I have to come back in the store and show ID, even though we're not entirely sure that there's this policy that applies in this case. And so what was the basis for that, if not it being race or color or national origin? I think that is what their argument is going to be. Defendant's conduct was a substantial factor in causing plaintiffs harm. As a proximate result of defendant's unlawful discriminatory actions, plaintiffs have and will continue to suffer great shame, humiliation, inconvenience, mental suffering, and other damages in an amount subject to proof at trial, but which plaintiffs believe are in excess of $1 million. All right, let's go down to this. And then, of course, they're also asking for attorney's fees. And then let's go down to the second cause of action. Remember, I kept talking about earlier in the first video, negligent hiring, supervision, and or retention. So let's break this down as to how they are saying this. Paragraph 34, defendants hired and retained the cashier and manager, collectively the employees, who were present at defendant Home Depot's West Hills retail store on February 11, 2023, and who subjected plaintiffs and each of them to a discriminatory business practice with discriminatory intent when refusing to or otherwise preventing plaintiffs from completing their purchase transaction as described above. 35 says the plaintiffs were unfit to perform the work for which they were hired. Defendants knew or should have known that employees were fit and or incompetent, and that this unfitness and or incompetence created a particular risk to others. The employees' unfitness and or incompetence harmed plaintiffs. As described above, defendants' negligence in hiring, screening, training, supervising, and or retaining the employees in a competent manner was a substantial factor in causing plaintiffs harm. As a proximate result of defendants' negligence, plaintiffs have and will continue to suffer damages in an amount subject to proof at trial, but which plaintiffs believe are in excess of $1 million. All right. And then you have some more information there. And then you have the prayer for relief where they're asking for in excess of $1 million, statutory damages, attorney's fees, punitive damages, a declaratory judgment declaring that the act applies and that they violated the act. Pre-judgment and post-judgment interest, and any such relief that the court may deem just and proper. So that's it. And then we also know that they are asking for a jury trial. So that wraps all of that up. That's a lot. That's a lot. Again, we took a look at the statement that he had placed on Instagram, and then now this full layout of the facts, and also the causes of action, one being a violation of the Civil Rights Act and the other having to do with the hiring, supervision, and retention of the employees. So hopefully that brings you up to speed. You can go back and look at video 1 if you had not looked at it, so you could understand the law that was being applied to this case. And I also understand now that Home Depot has filed an answer. So I need to track down that answer. I've read a lot of articles and news reports that talk about the answer, but I do not have a copy of that answer yet. I want to see that answer. I want to see what Home Depot is stating in its defense to these allegations. All right. If this brings you up to speed, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you will know every single time I share a new video. All right. Peace.